Jean Cocteau was born in 1889 in France and was a writer, designer, playwright, artist, and filmmaker, often criticized for jumping between mediums. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the Testament of Orpheus and its intertextual relationship with Greek mythology, but also Cocteau's choice of actors for these films. By using his close friends and family in Testament, Cocteau adds another layer of dimension to his work. He uses actors that he has previously worked with, as well as individuals he has long-standing connections to, in order to add an intertextual relationship with his previous films and plays. His decision to cast his longtime partner, for instance, Jean Marais, and several films throughout their relationship gives insight into how Cocteau blurred the line between art and life. When Cocteau and his partner Marais first met, Marais was auditioning for a comedy Cocteau was directing. Cocteau later remarked, "I did not meet him, I recognized him," referring to this first interaction. Cocteau went on to cast Marais in several of his films, most notably as Orpheus in the second film in his trilogy. In keeping with his tradition of Greek mythology and the already established Orpheus character within Cocteau's films, Cocteau casts Marais as Oedipus in the Testament of Orpheus. In a quote from Testament, Orpheus, played by Cocteau himself, states, "Of course works of art create themselves, and dreams of killing both father and mother. Of course they exist before the artist discovers them. But it's always Orpheus, always Oedipus. I thought that by changing castles I'd change ghosts, and that here a flower could make them flee." In other words, Cocteau is saying that art exists before an artist creates and discovers a work, but it's always the same old story. Whether it's the story of Orpheus, which he mentions to hint at his reuse of the character Orpheus, or Oedipus, which is a tale in Greek mythology that has been reimagined or incorporated into millions of works throughout history. By changing the stuffiness of the traditional myths, he thought he could change the way in which these characters were perceived. They could blossom into their own flower. So what does any of this mean? Was there any relevance between Cocteau's casting Marais as Orpheus in Orpheus, and then himself as Orpheus in the Testament of Orpheus? Is it relevant that he decided to cast Marais as Oedipus in the Testament? If so, how? The connection that we found most noteworthy was the quote in Testament where blind Orpheus, not knowing that he's crossed paths with the blind Oedipus, says this, "The Sphinx Oedipus. It is possible that one day we can meet those who we have been too anxious to know and not see them." With Marais and Cocteau both being artists and lovers, is it possible that they were both constantly fighting to see the other's true self without their art and egos constantly getting in the way? Or was this just a simple quote meant to explore a meaning completely separate from this? What's beautiful about Cocteau's work is the fact that we don't really know the answers. And that's okay.